So, looking at the calendar and how many classes we have, where we are, we're behind. And I've tried to figure out exactly the best way to handle that. And the problem is that any decision that you make in terms of like speeding up or jumping ahead or something like that could potentially come across as if you are making some sort of decision as to what you deem more important. And I don't want to have to be coming across as like making a decision about what is more important than the Bible. That seems like a bad place to be. So what we've done arbitrarily is we're going to jump to chapter 20 this morning. We're just going to pretend like we're in chapter 20. And we're going to look at chapter 20 and 21 and try and cover both of those today. So that's the plan. And we're just going to, that way we can then see where we are in another week or two and then arbitrarily make another decision. So that's what we're going to do this morning with chapter 20. If you open your Bibles to Matthew chapter 20, we're going to be in there this morning. Before we get into the text, let's begin with a word of prayer. If you bow with me, please. God and Father in heaven, we're so very grateful for the chance to be here this morning. We're grateful to be a people, and we're so very grateful to have your word before us. We pray you'll be with us during our time of study. Help us to pay attention to the words of Jesus, to the lessons that are here written before us. We can build each other up to live in good works, that we can drive each other towards glorifying you in all that we do. Pray that you'll be with us and help this to be a time of edification and encouragement, a time of upliftment that can be beneficial in our service to you. We pray, as always, Father, that you will grow the kingdom. It is in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, so Matthew chapter 20, starting in verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like a master who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And going about the third hour, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And to them he said, "You go into the vineyard too, and whatever is right I will give you." So they went. Going out again about the 6th hour and the 9th hour, he did the same. And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing. And he said to them, "Why do you stand here idle all day?" And they said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You go into the vineyard too." And when evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, "Call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last up to the first." And when those hired about the 11th hour came, each of them received a denarius. Now, when those who hired first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius. And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give this last worker as I give you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or do you begrudge my generosity?" So the last will be first, and the first last. I think we're familiar with the parable. What do you all think, feel, pops in your head when you read this?
As an employer or as an employee?
Whatever pops in your head first, Michael.
The employer may get one.
Yeah.
The employee didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the interesting part is verse 15. The question that he asked in 15 is, can I not do what I want to because of money?
Yeah.
And people don't think that.
Right. Yeah, he gives them a broader view there at the end, right? Like, regardless of whatever else is happening, like, you realize that this is my vineyard. And I think that's kind of the capstone. John, do you have your hand up?
I was just saying, like other places in the Bible, God's wisdom is not like man's wisdom. It's just too opposite sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't see it the way that we would. Because the fact is, we agree with the grumbling workers. Like there's a sense of injustice here that bothers us, that if we were put in the story and we were the first workers, we would feel the same way, I think. Ray, we could say.
Yeah, I think that we feel for the workers, we understand a little of the situation, but the expectation had changed when the master had given these last employees the same amount. They anticipate that they would do more.
Yeah.
So this attitude is in our current contemporary culture of entitlement. It's not really.
Yeah.
goes back.
Right. Yeah, we all have a little bit of that in us, right? Like, well, I deserve this. I mean, it's like you're working somewhere and they hire somebody in new, and you happen to find out that they're getting paid more than you, but you have the same role and they haven't been there as long. You've got 5 years experience, and this new person comes in and they get paid more, and you're like, that doesn't seem fair. Like, why are you hiring them more? Why don't I get a raise, right? Like, why am I not in that bracket or whatever it is? And yet, even in those circumstances, they say, well, but we don't know what their past experience was. They negotiated that when they came in. Like, there's a way to where it's like, it's galling and frustrating, but you're like, well, that's just kind of the way it works. This is way more egregious than that, isn't it? Because it's not just that they came in later and are getting paid the same. They literally didn't work as much. They put in an hour's worth of work compared to your day, and you got paid the same. Like, that's the thing that, like, it's even a step further from what we would normally try and relate to, I think. Yeah, David.
Well, I was just gonna, mention that I don't think this is also a prescription or he's not putting out a great start a business, run it this way.
Right.
He says at the very beginning, this is what the kingdom is like.
Yeah.
The kingdom is like this, and so in the kingdom, the last verse, the first last, and of course the reason that's so striking because on earth here it is in fact, and but in fairness, I think there's nothing unfair about what the first worker received for merit. And it is somebody wants to be generous. They do work less the same, and that's perfectly within the rights of the master or the person who owns that venue or whatever. But he's specifically telling us this. And this is good for us from a, how can we get into the kingdom if we were just exposed to it late in life or something,
Yeah, right.
But this story is here describing the kingdom.
Right. Yeah, I think that's well said. And so we got a few of the keys, what I would consider kind of the key verses or ideas in the story already, right? We've got the, can I not choose what to do what I want to with what belongs to me? This is talking about the kingdom of heaven. And then the other one is he goes and he asks the laborers that are there last, why do you stand here idle all day? And they said, because no one has hired us. And that's the other key to me as well, because let's say you're going to hire people for a job and you've got a bunch of resumes that have come in. And you start going through these resumes of 20 people you have for an open position. And one by one, everybody you talk to says, oh, I actually got another job. And then you're just desperate to hire somebody and you're down to the last resume. Which resume are you saving for last? Who's the last call to? The person that you really wanted all along? No, you're dragging the bottom of the barrel. Like, you're getting the dregs. Like, this is all that's left. And it's the same thing. Everybody that's going that needs work done goes to the marketplace of labor, and they grab the strongest, fittest, most respectable-looking people first, right? That's what you're going to do. You're not going to go grab the guy that, has a limp and say, I need you to start dragging a plow. That's going to be inefficient. So maybe somebody else could use him if you're being generous, right? But Jesus goes to the last hour of the day and he gets the leftovers, the one that nobody else wanted to work, and he brings them in. And so now when they jump the line and they're getting paid, it's even more egregious, isn't it? Because not only did they only work for an hour, not only did they come in later, and not only did they get paid as much, they're not even as qualified, apparently, right? Nobody else wanted them. And yet, this goes back to these other kind of key ideas. One, the king can do what he wants to in his vineyard. And this isn't talking about the earth and the way to run a business. Jesus doesn't care about how you run your business. He cares about the kingdom of heaven. And so like David said, that's the preface to all of this. This is the nature of the kingdom. And so you want to act like, because again, I think we see the parallels maybe within the context of the Pharisees or the religious leaders, or in our day, those that are raised in the church, right? And it's easy to develop this bitterness of well, you got to go do all these other things, and now you're just going to show up here, and you're older age to become a Christian. That doesn't seem fair that you're going to have the same reward as me. Surely I'm going to have a better spot in the kingdom, right? Which, going back, that's what they keep talking about, is the place in the kingdom. It's what they care about. And it's like surely there's like a difference there. Jesus, you misunderstood the nature of the kingdom altogether. Yeah.
The thing I just also want to mention too is that, this is just describing what they got at the end of the day. And it doesn't say at all about, for example, if the people who are working throughout the day receive, what was their name brought out. I'm just kind of thinking it's impossible that the master provides some sort of benefit while they were working. If we try, see the analogy to its, bring it to its entirety for us, someone who's lived their whole life as a Christian, for 50, 60, 70, whatever 20 years they live, their life is going to look different than somebody who maybe near the end of their twilight decades or whatever, they're not going to have the same benefits of living their whole life as a Christian. So the idea that there was no benefits to be, it's not really true. Our lives are better, more well adjusted by so many benefits to a lived service, that we find in Christianity. Like, my yoke is easy, burden is light. It's really a great life. And so, in some ways, someone who comes to Christ living life lost quite a bit. They might get evidence.
Yeah.
Which is that final bit.
Right. And I think that's the important thing to remember is that he's not telling allegories with parables. This isn't like this is an allegory where all the details line up. It's because if you do that, then you are excluding the benefits of Christian life or whatever else. It's addressing this particular problem that we otherwise might see. And the kingdom of heaven is like this, right? Everybody's welcome in. And that's the principle that he's teaching there. So all the other stuff, that we talk about there detracts from the primary point that he's making. And I think it's really tempting to turn the parables into allegories because sometimes they fit pretty close, but that's not what they are. And I think that's what you're saying is that to just look at it this way and say this is what Christianity's like would be to miss the point because it isn't just somebody who shows up and works all day and then it's the exact same at the end. We're just talking about this moment, right, in which Jesus is now coming and he's expanding the kingdom, bringing everybody in. Whether you've been within the kingdom for a lifetime or not, you are welcome to join in. Whether you are lame or rich, you're welcome to come in. And there's this indignance that we can have about that, saying that's the point. We're bringing everybody into the kingdom. So, yeah, James.
I think based on how I look at this, what I see is when we think about the relationship of Jews and Gentiles, Jews didn't want to have anything to do with it. They really looked at them as lesser people. If you go these uncircumcised savages outside the kingdom of God, they're the ones who are the descendants of Abraham and Moses. We're the ones who have the old law. We're the special people, and you're not. With the tongue sticking out. Now, here's Gentiles. Jesus is teaching right in the game, and we read in Acts 10, and also Cornelius. We see the first conversion of Gentiles. We see that now these people who were not God's chosen people before, who are not only being allowed into the kingdom in the covenant relationship with God, they're going to get the exact same privileges and blessings that you Jews are going to get, and that's a stumbling block to them. And when he's using this illustration about who's paying how much based on when they join the work team, I think he's teaching a more fundamental lesson to the Jews that whether somebody is a Jew or not, they become a Christian, they have my blessings because now they become my child. And as a matter of fact, I think what also hit them real hard was the fact that Jesus said, I'm going to take the kingdom from you and give it to the people who will bring forth the fruits thereof. They had to recognize the Jews laid out in front of them. And as a general whole, the Jewish nation really rejected Christ, and that's one of the reasons why it was opened up. The kingdom was to everybody, because it was not only just in God's ultimate plan to provide the means for everybody, but his own special people. You read the whole Testament and the Bible, rejected him as a general whole, so he opened it up to people who will accept him, and then he brings color out here.
And I think to take that a step further, and if we're honest with ourselves, do Christians sometimes feel the same way as the Jews do? Like, is it possible for us to look at the world and to look at people and say, oh, they're the outcasts. They don't believe. We're the ones that have the gospel and have it right, and they're all messed up. Like, I mean, I think that same sort of pride infiltrates the church just as readily as it did the Pharisees and the Sadducees, if we're not careful. And so, I mean, that's where these lessons become powerful, because, like, you know, maybe we want to consider ourselves the one that's been there all day. We think about the injustice from that perspective, but maybe we are the one who shows up at the end of the day too. And like whichever group you're in, or whoever in the day you want to like line yourself up with, and wherever you see yourself in the story, there's still the danger of you're part of the people getting paid, and you're looking around at the people that didn't even show up to work. And it's easy at that moment for that to kind of switch that. And so Jesus is challenging our preconceived notions about the kingdom itself and who's welcome in. And that's why these parables are so hard, and why they're so hard on the Jews, and why they can be so difficult to us. Because it's easy for us to miss the point too. But he's speaking just as much to us as he was to the Jews about those sorts of biases that we may have. You know, those that are outside the kingdom and everything else. And so he's saying, yeah, this is the nature of the kingdom. We're tipping everything on its head, right? This is the opposite of the way that the world works. And that's the point. This is the kingdom of heaven we're talking about, not the kingdom of earth, not the kingdom of Jerusalem, the kingdom of heaven. And this is the way that it looks on earth, and this is the way that I treat people. And by the way, it's my vineyard, and I can do what I want, right? And so, as they're going up to Jerusalem, he took the disciples aside, and on the way he said to them, "See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man will be delivered over to the chief priests and scribes, and they will condemn him to death and deliver him over to the Gentiles to be mocked and flogged and crucified, and he'll be raised on the third day." Could Jesus have said this any more explicitly? What's going to happen? Like, is there some mystery here in 17 through 19? Like, when you read that, are you like, well, but if you go skip ahead of the story, he failed to mention this part, right? Or is he like, well, he kind of said flogged, but that, you know, could he mean this other? I mean, like, you look at it and it's like he's saying it as plainly as you can, isn't he? Like, is there any question about what he's saying? Is like, because we know the answer, right? Like, we know the end of the story. And so, knowing the end of the story, when we read this, is there any way that he could have said it more explicitly?
Probably not. There's two sides to communication. You can say it. I mean, I remember something with my children. You can do that again, you can get a spanking. They did it anyway. It doesn't mean just because you say the words plainly that it's received with equal understanding. Here, I think being extremely explicit, being very plain. What did they hear? I think is part of this key too. Is, I mean, you see it over and over when the miracles, Tom to see, hey, look at each other. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
We'll get you just
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And you have the rest of
Yeah.
the like that.
Well, first to clarify, my children, you just mean Jacob, right? Ben and Ian, who are here, who would never have done that, right? It's Jacob. You know? Yeah. No, I mean, you're exactly right, and that's like jumping ahead. That's the point. The problem is not that he's not clear. The problem is they don't know how to understand the information. It's like if I took my kid out and I was like, "Look, Joanna, this is what a derivative is." And like, if you want to find the area under a curve of an exponential function, you take the derivative. So x squared becomes 2x, and that means that that's the area under the curve. And she would look at me, like maybe some of you are looking at me now, and say, "What on earth is that?" Right? By the way, that's the limit of my math knowledge. Like, that's about as far as I can go these days. What? Oh, the integral. Sorry. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Shouldn't have used math. Next time I'll use something else. Yeah, integrals are but you say that, and it's like that exact sort of thing. You're like, what on earth does that mean? And it's like, it doesn't mean that the information is unclear or what you said left any, doubt of they would not be a place where they can understand it. And so I think that's what's going on here. It's easy to be hard on it and say, why did you think Jesus told you this was going to happen? It's like, yeah, but there's no way that you're going to be able to process this information, grasp it. Like, you don't have a frame of reference to process this. Like, we've spent our lives knowing that Jesus was crucified and resurrected. That's the claim, right? And so we've had a lifetime of getting used to it. Like your kids in the class, like they cue that as kids, and it's like, that's not novel information. And at different times in our life, it may hit us differently and strike us differently, but like the concept is not something new. But to these people, this is not the way that the world works. This is not the way that a king establishes a kingdom. And by the way, what has Jesus just said, and what has he been saying through the entirety of Matthew? The kingdom of heaven. He's telling them that he's establishing a kingdom. He says the kingdom is coming. He says, I am the Christ. I am the Messiah, right? And what is a Messiah? What is an anointed one? What is a king? And what is a kingdom? There's only one frame of reference that they have for what that is. And so when he says that this is going to happen, it's like nonsense. And by the way, to be fair to him as well, I mean, how often when we read the parables, are we like, okay, like the one in chapter 20, I think we generally grasp pretty well. But some of them, we read them and you're like, I don't know that I understand that. Or like we get to chapter 21 and he curses the fig tree, you know? And we're like, why does he kill the fig? Like, I know it's not fruit, but like, it seems a little bit harsh. Like, why that lesson there? Or whatever it is. Like, there's these things that occur and we're like, I don't. And so they're used to Jesus not making sense, my point. Like, they're used to not understanding it as much as they've tried. And so when he says this, they're like, that's another one of those Jesus sayings. Like, he's not been, there must be another parable. And so even though he's telling them and preparing them, they're just not in a place to understand it. And I think that's interesting to kind of look at it that way. You're going to say something, George? Or, okay. So then, verse 20, then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to him with her sons, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, what do you want? She said to him, say that these two sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your kingdom. And Jesus answered, you do not know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am to drink? And they said to him, we are able. And he said to them, you will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and my left hand is not mine to grant, but it is for those whom it has been prepared by my Father. And when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. But whoever will be great among you must be your servant, and whoever must be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came to be served, not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. It's kind of a funny story. I've been looking for a job, and my dad was like, talked to somebody and found out the name of some recruiter or something. And he was like, send me your resume, I want to talk to them, pass that along. Dad, I don't know that you calling a recruiter on my behalf looks very good on me. Like, I don't know that. She's like, no, I'm not calling me or whatever. I never heard of you calling me. Maybe he thought better of it. But it's like one of those things. It's like your dad is a grown man. You find a job, and your dad just wants to help him, right? And he's like, I'm gonna help you out, son. I'm gonna take control of this. You're like, I don't think that it works that way. But it's a little bit of that here, isn't it? The sons of Zebedee, their mom's like, you boys aren't taking care of this the way you need to. I'm gonna make sure you're blessed. Because again, what's the context? They're marching to Jerusalem, and everybody knows what that means, right? And we're going to get to that in chapter 21 with the triumphal entry. They know the king is coming into his kingdom. The son of David is going to sit on the throne. And what happens when a king sits on the throne and he conquers? He sets up his advisors. He sets up the princes. He sets up the people that have the titles and the lands and the authority. All those things get lined up. And she says, boys, you haven't positioned yourself the way you need to. You need to go talk to Jesus and make sure that you get those positions on the right hand and the left hand. They're like, Mom. She's like, fine, I'll do it. Right? And maybe that's reading it too a little bit. But she goes to him and she asks, right? Loving mother. And Jesus says, I don't know what you're asking. I don't think you understand what this kingdom is all about. Are you able to drink the cup that you're going to drink? And of course, oh yeah, we're able to do this. Because again, the analogy is, are you able to do what I'm going to do? Are you able to be the sort of person I am? Are you able to endure the things that I'm going to be able to have to endure? And they think this is Jesus. We're with him. We're going to go right along with him. And they're like, think it's going to be battle or something, right? It's going to be warfare. It's going to be some sort of conflict. But we'll be able to stand next to you and fight. And there's a lot of courage in that, right? There's a lot of bravery. I mean, look, it's an incredible thing. I've obviously never gone to war. But those that have, right? Talk to my granddad, fought in World War II, and we talk about some of those things. And Bodie would talk to me about Korea, and he would talk about those experiences. We hear those things from people, and it's a tough thing, right? To like stare down another barrel, right? To like have your life flash before your eyes, have bombs going off, or whatever it is, right? Like that's a brutal thing. And in their context, you draw a sword and you charge somebody else with a sword. Like that's terrifying. And they're like, we're able to do it. But what Jesus is demanding, and the cup that Jesus is going to drink, is not facing down your enemy with a sword drawn and courageously fighting them. It's to drop your sword and let them stab you defenseless. Like it's a completely different sort of thing, isn't it? It's like I don't know, as a dad, play sports with your kids, right? And like we'll play basketball or something, I don't know, or we'll hit tennis balls. And you're hitting the ball with your son. And I played tennis in high school, I got pretty good. And I hit the ball pretty hard, right? Like that's the thing that I do pretty well. I can hit the ball pretty hard. I always want to be like Andy Roddick. So like I just wail on that sucker as hard as I can, So you're hitting with your son, and you're going back and forth, and he gets it over, and you're like, oh man, great shot. But he's like, I scored on you. He starts bragging, that he scored on you. And you're like, okay. So the next time he hits one over, you put a little pepper on it, whiz it past him. Like, slow down, son. Like, this is the way it is. And like we recognize that as athletes or as people, to like your kids start bragging about how smart they are, and it's like, well, you need to understand your place, right? Let me put you in your place real quick. That's Jesus going before the Sanhedrin and Pilate and the high priest, and these people are going to mock him and persecute him, and they're going to challenge him, and they're going to tell him he's an idiot, and like talk about how much powerless he is. They're going to strip him of his clothes, and they're going to ridicule him as he's dying on a cross. And the whole time, Jesus has a fastball, right? Come down from the cross, right? Come down from the cross whenever he wants to. He could call 10 legions of angels. He could destroy the earth. He has power over every puny life that's in front of him. And yet, he's going to drink the cup that's before him. And so as much as we admire the courage of those that stand in battle, and should, right? As courageous as that is, what Jesus is doing and the cup that he's asking them if they can drink is a completely different type of courage, a completely different type of self-control, a completely different type of love and compassion and mercy, a completely different way to perceive the world. And this is just builds off it all, right? This is the kingdom of heaven. This is different. This isn't, okay, let me show you how hard I can hit the ball, humble you a little bit. This is, no, you can go on bragging and ridiculing and insulting, and I'll let you get away with it because it's for your good. Because it's only through this sort of suffering and this sort of death that I can redeem you. And so that's the cup he's talking about, the cup of God's wrath, which is referenced several times in the prophets, right? The cup of God's wrath, the blood that's spilled, right? It is the very cup that he asks to be passed from him when he's in the garden praying. That's what he's talking about. And they think, I can drink it. And he says, well, maybe you will. You may have to endure these things. But it's not my place to give these positions away. That's God's place. Yeah.
I think it's actually verse 23 that he even says, I mean, here he is, he's the main judge.
Mm-hmm.
He's the main servant of the Lord. But yet he is not like
Yeah.
his father. So even in this moment, whenever people are coming to him saying, well, let's all love. He's like, there's no line because God does it. Which is not me.
Yeah.
And I don't think any people that take that approach. I don't want people that would say, oh, you're right. I need to write it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even give them a place in order to sit. station.
Right. And then the others are indignant. Why are they indignant? Yeah. The jealousy and the audacity. Well, our mom's not here. It's not fair that my mom's not here to plead my case. I mean, maybe there's a sense of they shouldn't be asking this, but based on the other passages about who's the greatest, I think that they're jealous that they're kind of elbowing their way to the front, that they get this conversation. Like, how dare you try and jump in front of us, right? There's this indignance of, I don't even think indignance is a word. I think I've used it 2 or 3 times this morning, but we'll pretend like it is. Shakespeare made up words, so we're good. And then it goes back to this guiding principle, right? The kingdom of heaven is not like the kingdoms that you're used to. The first shall be last, the last shall be first. And by the way, it's about service and sacrifice, which is exactly what 17 through 19 is about, right? Sacrifice for them, for the kingdom. It's what the cup is all about. And they just don't see it yet. And so this is in Jericho. They come out of Jericho, kind of like the last stop before going into Jerusalem. So verse 29, as they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him. And behold, there were 2 blind men sitting by the roadside. And when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, Lord, have mercy on us, son of David. And the crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent. And they cried out all the more, Lord, have mercy on us, son of David. And stopping, Jesus called them and said, what do you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Lord, let our eyes be opened. And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes. And immediately they recovered their sight and followed him. So a couple ways to look at this. What are they asking for? What do they literally say? They say, Lord, what? Have mercy, right? And then he asks them what they want, and then they say, but at first they say, have mercy. What is that request for? I mean, are they initially asking for their sight to be restored? Maybe. I mean, it could be that it's just like a generic sort of like, pity for a soldier, like have a sign out, or pity for the blind, like have mercy on me, right? Like could just be a statement of like beggary, right? It could just be, that's what they say. But Jesus looks at them and he says, you're asking for something, but what is it that you really want? Like not what you're asking for, what do you want? What do you need? And they say, we want to be able to see, And that's interesting, and I don't know how to take that. You're reading into the story a little bit to look at it that way. But you see somebody who's like, can I have $5? Right? And you're like, what do you really want? Like, do they really just want money? And like, we always, we tend to be skeptical of people. It's like, oh, you just want to buy alcohol or something, right? Or drugs, or like, we think a lot of people are like that. They're addicted to something. We think, oh, well, they just want to do such and such. But it's like in that moment you say, well, what do you really want? And they're like, I just want to be able to walk. I just want to lose my limb. I just wish I could see. And Jesus looks at him and he has pity on him. Because he sees that what they really want isn't just a meal. They want to be able to walk. They want to be able to live. They want to be able to operate in the world again, right? That there's something else that they want more than just the pittance that other people are throwing at them. And of course, everybody else is like, leave him alone. He's going to Jerusalem. This is the king. You don't stop the king on his way to his throne. And he stops and he says, what do you want? And they say, you see. And Jesus has pity on them and he lets them see. He heals them. Yeah.
Verse 30 is talking about they heard he was coming their way.
Yeah.
And they heard about him before.
Yeah.
They believed what they had heard. So they were showing their faith.
Yeah.
And they asked him to have mercy because they knew that he had the power to forgive them whatever sins they had. And the thief on the cross is believe.
Yeah.
That was they believed.
Yeah.
That's why they asked him.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, when they say we want to see again, there's some belief, some hope in there. I think that's reasonable to expect from that. And so he heals them. And again, this is the nature of the kingdom, isn't it? This isn't the way the kings are. Kings don't stop their carriage on the way to like a grain ball to talk to the poor. They may throw some coins out the window. They may like, oh yeah, I'm generous. Like that's what the good ones do, right? But Jesus is like, stop. Let these men through. I want to talk to you. I want to converse with them. And that's who he is. And of course, verse 34, he doesn't just heal him, right? He touched him. These dirty beggars who can't see that are on the side of the road touched him. The Jews had pretty strict cleanliness laws. Like there's a pretty clear idea of clean and unclean, which I think teaches us a lot of valuable lessons and taught them a lot of valuable lessons. But here in 34, he touched them. He's not afraid of them. It's a big deal. Jesus reached out to him. Yeah.
I think the story is a great example of the word mercy. Many times when we hear or think about the word mercy, it just simply means that your sentence has been, removed, it's been repeated. I mean, you don't need to go through that. Here, I think you see more of the essence of what the remains. He's making these things better and found. It's not just a forgiveness. It is a complete restoration for them. It's a change for their life. And it fixes not just being productive again. In that society, you're lying pretty much out. I mean, you can't improve, right? Well, if you can't improve, then you're back. You don't have to. You don't have. There's so many things that you can't do. The simple restoration here gets them to the point of where not only that they are, they literally do so much they become a disciple. They follow it.
Yeah.
Which is, again, very telling.
Who are the people that follow Jesus throughout the gospel? Just think about it. Fishermen, poor, the hungry. Those people want food. They need him. People that are blind come after him. I mean, he's building a different kind of kingdom, isn't he? He's not going around the countryside. I need every able-bodied male the age of such and such who can carry a sword. Like that's what you do if you're starting a revolution, isn't it? You go place to place, you give your speech, and you talk about how great the world is going to be, and you say, "Where's your sword to be?" Right? And then you gather your army, and you get these people behind you, and then you march on the city and you take it over. What is the rabble that is following Jesus into Jerusalem? Who are these people that are with him as he's marching to his throne? Is it an army? It's a bunch of women. It's a bunch of fishermen that left their families. It's James and John and their mother, right? It's a couple blind men. It's the demon-possessed people that he cast out that have been beating themselves and half dead because of the demons that were in them. Right? Lame men that were made to walk. Hungry people that have no food. That's his army that he's taking with him into Jerusalem. And I mean, you just picture this, don't you? You just think for a second about what this looks like. Like, if you are a Roman, because it's a question, right? Like the Jews are upset. Why haven't the Romans stopped this revolutionary? Because he's not a threat. He has no army. He has a bunch of poor people walking around with him. Like if you're a Roman legionnaire and you see this, you think I could kill all of them with my small platoon of people. Gathering 5,000, Jesus, you can't stand against. So it's not a threat. That's not what this is. And Jesus keeps preaching the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven. And you're like, what kingdom, Jesus? Looks like a bunch of poor people to me. You got the rabble with you. And by the way, when you think about it, imagine if we were marching with Jesus towards Jerusalem. I mean, is it the same thing? Do they look at us and think, oh man, here comes the army. You better batten down the hatches and get the soldiers on the wall. I mean, the kingdom isn't made up of soldiers. It's made up of these blind men that just are pleading for mercy. That's what it is. I missed a couple hands. Derek, did you have something to say?
It seems like this connects back to the very first, we talked about the parable of the vineyard, the laborers. The connection there is on that back to the last, the left.
Yeah.
People who, and no one wants because there wasn't that good, but sure off.
And that's a good thought. Because imagine with the apostles, they've been with 3 years, however long. And now it's now these blind men are joining the march at the last second. Like, no, you can't join the kingdom now because they think this is the moment, and it is not in the way that they think it is, right? But it's there's an immediate application for them there, right? Like, here comes these people that are joining at the last second as we're at Jerusalem. Like, what about those that have been laboring for all these years with Jesus in his ministry? And of course, chapter 21. Did I have another hand earlier? Something else? Chapter 21. Now when they drew near to Jerusalem and came to Bethphage, the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go into the village in front of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, you shall say, 'The Lord knows them,' and he will send them at once." This took place to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet, saying, "Say to the daughter of Zion, Behold, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden." And the disciples went, and Jesus had directed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and put on them their cloaks, and he sat on them. And most of the crowd spread their cloaks on the ground, and others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. And the crowd that went before him and that followed him were shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest!" And when he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred up, saying, "Who is this?" And the crowd said, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee." So again, picture this rabble, this group of people, gathering around Jesus. They get him the donkey, sign of a king, fulfilling prophecy, and they're going to march into Jerusalem, and they're at the road, and they take their coats off for him to walk on, right? It's like a cartoon or something, or show, like the lady's walking, and there's a puddle. You don't have to step in the puddle, so you take your coat off and put it there so her feet stay dry. She walks across the puddle. What happens to the coat after that? Yeah, the thing's pretty dirty. You're not putting it back. Now, if you've got a bunch of coats, fine. Wash that one, get it cleaned up, white the other one. Maybe it's destroyed, but it's okay. You got it back, right? Imagine you're the blind man. How many coats do you think the blind man has? And he puts it down on the ground for Jesus' horse to walk on, his donkey, his colt, right? They get the palm fronds and they lay it out, welcoming in, ushering him in, and they're singing, shouting, "Hosanna." Like, why? Why are they doing all of this? Yeah.
Widow who put in her 2 mites, all that she had. They're giving everything that they have because they see who Jesus says and what the Gospels really were compared to a few things that we have. It's even worth giving those things up for the knowledge of Christ. They see something that, Jason, I mean, aren't you about who's in Christ and who follows him, to use modern day words. While the weeds fall into the everyday we go out and decide, as it were, we see what he's saying, they understand his message, it resonates with them.
Yeah. I think it's important to pause because it's, throughout the gospel, we point out how they misunderstood, right? And I've tried to do a good job of saying it's easy for us to misunderstand too. Like, it's not that we're better than them. There's just these things that are difficult. This is a change. The world has changed because of Jesus, right? But there's also moments in which we need to respect what these people are doing. They may not understand what's about to happen. They may think that he's going to sit on the throne of David, that all these, they may expect those things. But here in this moment, they believe fully and wholeheartedly that Jesus is the Messiah and the King. And these poor people that have nothing else are giving him the highest honor and praise that they can. And they're welcoming and ushering him into his kingdom. And they're excited about it, and they're eager for it. And it's a beautiful thing. And when he gets there, everybody's like, what is going on? I mean, this isn't like the whole city's coming out to greet him and welcome him in. This is the menagerie of like people that have been traveling with him, ushering him in. Like, the image is not that like all of Jerusalem comes and welcomes him in. This is an image of the people that have been traveling with him are the ones doing this. I don't know how many people that is. I don't know if it's just the disciples that have been with him, the smaller group, or the 70, or if it's 200 people or 1,000 people. And maybe some people from Jerusalem do come out and join in. Maybe there's the implication of that there. But either way, this isn't like all of Jerusalem is there eagerly welcoming him. They see it, and they're like, what is going on? Who is this person? And they say it's the prophet Jesus, the Nazareth of Galilee. And the first thing he does is he goes straight to the temple, and he drives out the money changers and the the people there trading money, people selling pigeons or whatever else, and he chastises them, and he says, it's changing now. Where does he not go? He doesn't go to Pilate. He doesn't march on the palace. He goes to the temple. And he starts cleaning up the temple. Because that's the thing that needs to be fixed. It's your relationship with God. That's the thing that we're correcting. And so that's where he goes. And we've talked about that before, about the way that they would use selling animals and use the special coins that are there, and basically like find a way to steal people's money from them, essentially, to the trading there. And as part of that, verse 14, and the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying out of the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant. And there's something interesting here. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole about this, read like some academic paper about why they were indignant. And they were tying that directly to this idea of the lame and the blind coming to him in the temple. And if you go back to like 2 Samuel, when David takes Jerusalem, they climb up through the spring into the city, and they take the city. But when he's coming to attack it, the people of Jerusalem at the time, the Jebusites, they're like, oh, we're so unafraid because we're on a mountaintop of their walls, we'll put the lame and the blind on the walls. Like, that's how confident we were all that you can't take the city. And so they climb up in the middle, they take the city, and it says that David hated the lame and the blind, and they weren't allowed in the house of God then from that moment on. And some people are like, well, he's talking about the Jebusites, not the lame and the blind. But if you look at the Mishnah and the Qumran and the way that they interpreted like the purity laws, because you couldn't have anybody with a defect, so to speak, be a priest, that basically the idea is that these people aren't allowed in the temple, that they're not good enough. And whether it goes back to David and the taking of the city because it was offensive to him, or whether it goes to a law or a misinterpretation of that, basically they're not letting these people into the temple. And they're coming into Jesus and he's healing them. Because this is what the kingdom of heaven is all about. You think that it's about a gateway, that it's about keeping up these barriers, that it's about the barriers to entry to knowing God. And he says, that's not what this is about at all. This is for everybody, and especially those that need it. And so he goes straight to the temple. He gets rid of their money-making schemes, and he invites in the poor, and the sick, and the lame, and the blind, and he heals them. He says, this is what the temple is. This is what it's all about. Access to God. And it's a beautiful thing. And so we don't get to chapter 21. I knew that's what we had to. But we'll pick up right there in the middle, that section in chapter 21 next week. Thanks for your attention and comments.